Board of Directors. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Anthony. I'm going to call to order the meeting of the Norwalk Public Library Board of Directors for June. And in attendance are Janie Williams, Mary Mann, Moyna Noor, Ralph Bloom, Sharon Bedante, myself, Alex Knopp, and Executive Director Sherelle Harris. So tonight we have, as part of our discussion about library materials and issues arising from concerns or objections in the community, Samantha Lee, who is chair of the Connecticut Library Association Intellectual Freedom Committee. And I'm going to ask Sherelle to do any additional introduction that she would like. And then Samantha has a PowerPoint she's going to share with us, and then we'll have a chance for some dialogue. So Sherelle, anything in addition to welcome Samantha?
Sure. Hi, Samantha. So again, we welcome you, and we're so glad that you're with us to share your expertise. For those of you who don't know, Samantha is a 15-year library veteran. She's the head of reference at Enfield Public Library. And most importantly, Samantha serves as the chair of the Connecticut Library Association's Intellectual Freedom Committee. So she's going to answer any questions that we may have, pertaining to some reconsideration policies. And she also has a PowerPoint that she will share with us on intellectual freedom.
Thank you, Sherelle, and thank you to the board for allowing me to speak very briefly about intellectual freedom. I'm going to share my screen, and when that happens, sometimes I lose eyes on the rest of the board members. So I will try and pay attention to folks' faces just to be sure that I am answering questions. Uh-oh. Can everyone see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, excellent. So intellectual freedom. So we're going to go to the first thing about intellectual freedom, and it's about the First Amendment. So as it says in the First Amendment, Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech or of the press. And that line is really about government interference when it comes to free speech. The government will not and does not interfere with individuals from talking, from free speech, from expressing ideas. Now, the corollary to that is also the freedom to access free speech and the freedom to receive free speech. And that was made obvious in 1965 by Justice Williams in the Law versus Postmaster General case. So understanding that First Amendment free speech rights also means that you can receive free speech. And that's where the crux of intellectual freedom lives. Libraries, as part of the government, provides access to free speech and does not suppress that speech. And so that's where intellectual freedom lives in libraries. So intellectual freedom in libraries is very much a First Amendment issue. Follow that up with, what is censorship? It's direct conflict with the First Amendment, and libraries are where that conflict happens very often. And it's up to libraries to fight against censorship. So we do that with this document called the Library Bill of Rights. There's 7 tenets, but I want to bring focus to the first 3 of the Bill of Rights in the Library Bill of Rights here. That books and libraries and library resources are provided for the interest and information enlightenment of the community. Also, very important, number 2, that we provide information and materials presenting all sides, and that we don't remove things because of partisan and doctrinal disapproval. And the last part, libraries should challenge censorship in the fulfillment of their responsibility to provide information and enlightenment. Now, after you get the basics done with the Library Bill of Rights, there are supplemental documents called interpretations. And one is challenged resources. And so an excerpt from that is any attempt, be it legal or extra legal, to regulate or suppress resources in libraries must be closely scrutinized to the end that protected expression is not abridged. So it's really important that anytime that there is a challenge, that it is carefully considered so that this expression is not suppressed, that it is not censored. That doesn't mean that items can't be moved around in libraries and still be available to other people and make it and live in a more appropriate collection. But that has to be done carefully and with great amount of consideration. When it comes to children's material, which I understand this particular challenge does address, one thing that I always think about is parental rights. So libraries are never in the situation to act in locus parentis. We are not acting as any child's parent or making a decision about what that child accesses as if we are making that decision as a parent. Likewise, parents are more than welcome to make decisions for their children in selecting library materials. They have every right to tell their child, yes, you can check out this book. No, you can't. But they don't have the right to then decide that other children can't access titles because they don't want their child to access it. So when it comes to challenges to children's items, it's absolutely within the right of the library to say, hey, you know what, we understand your family's values. We understand why your child, you would feel that your child shouldn't access this book. And that's right for you and your family, but it's not right for everybody. And therefore this collection has to be able to serve everybody. And this is the last relevant interpretation. It's religion in American libraries. And this is where I want to preface this with, I'm not a lawyer, but my understanding is that libraries as municipal entities are bound by the Establishment Clause. And so if the library were to make a decision on removing or keeping this book to accommodate a religious perspective, that it could be seen as a proponent, as being a proponent, and therefore in violation of the Establishment Clause. There's a lot of legal gymnastics there. And like I said, I'm not a lawyer, but accommodating or removing an item based on religious objections could be seen as the library acting as a proponent of that religion and therefore in violation of the Establishment Clause. So that was very quick and dirty rundown of intellectual freedom in libraries and the relevant interpretations as related to the issue Director Harris brought to me. Are there any questions, concerns, points of clarification?
Hi, sorry, I was on mute. Hi, this is Alex.
Mhm.
Obviously, throughout the world, there have been some incidents involving the same kind of situation that we're facing here. Are you aware of any similar challenge or concern that has been brought to the Connecticut Library Association or the American Library Association concerning graphic depictions of religious figures and kind of doctrinal objections to them.
In this, no, not that I know of. I did consult with ALA today, and they had not heard similar objections or challenges for depictions of religious leaders.
Okay, thank you. I can't, because of the screen sharing, I can't see
Oh, sorry.
anybody. So in terms of calling on and making sure you're identified in the minutes. So, okay, good.
Sorry about that.
So thank you, Samantha. That was very helpful.
You're welcome.
Are there any questions or comments board members would like to make?
If I may, I did want to add one more anecdotal story about a challenge that I did see at another library. And in that library, there was a woman who was quite upset about a depiction of a storybook character that she thought fed into negative stereotypes. And she challenged the book. The library decided to keep it, but they were sympathetic to that mother's concerns about problematic depictions in the picture book. And that library decided to write to the publisher with that parent about that complaint. And in later publications of that, in later editions of that picture book, the problematic scene was removed and reimagined. So this decision by the board obviously must be carefully considered, but there might be other avenues of restoration for the complainant.
All right.
Sorry. Samantha, I'm just wondering if you can talk about any instances where books have been removed from the shelf, just to give us a kind of, just a counterpoint to what makes something, yeah.
Okay, so the most recent example would be the Dr. Seuss issue. So earlier this year, Dr. Seuss Enterprises decided to remove 6 titles from publication. They cited the reason being that they had problematic representations of people, of Black people and Asian people, and they removed them. Libraries then decided for themselves whether or not to keep the books. Now, in my particular library, we follow the CREW method, which was a method developed out of Texas to help guide librarians on when and how to remove items from the collection based on standards of whether or not they're current, the condition of the book, whether or not the information is accurate. And in children's books in particular, especially the Dr. Seuss books, because they are picture books, the standards as written in the CREW manual said that it was best to eliminate the problematic picture books with racist depictions. And so following that method, my children's librarian decided to remove the Dr. Seuss books in question that Seuss Enterprises decided to cease publication on.
Any other questions for Samantha? I see somebody on the participant list with the phone number ending 9502. Is that the Telesco service?
So Telesco is on.
Okay. Okay.
I'm not sure if that's her number, but she's on.
Okay. Well, that's the only phone number on the list, so. Any other questions or discussion with Samantha? Well, if not, Samantha, thank you very much for joining us tonight and your outlining of some of these such important principles. And I'm sure this will be very helpful to the board as we discuss how to respond to a concern expressed by one of our patrons. So thank you.
Thank you, Samantha. We appreciate your time and your expertise.
Thank you, Director Harris, for having me, and have a wonderful night, folks.
All right, thank you.
Bye.
Have a wonderful evening.
All right, so moving on with the agenda, are there any public comments from members of the public who've joined? I don't see any as a participant. So let's move to the approval of the minutes of May 13th, 2021. We circulated minutes that include my proposed revisions. So I'd like to move adoption with the proposed revisions. And then if anybody else has either additional revisions to make or concerns about the ones I've made, we can discuss those.
I do. There's two issues I have.
Okay.
You want to go
Katie,
ahead?
please.
You want me to
Sure.
go ahead? Okay.
Please.
Under action B, find it on here. It's the last paragraph where it says, Ms. Brescia added that if the city does not support them, they should not purchase them. That was not Patsy saying that, that was me.
Okay.
And then in the section D, under the proposed with the CDC, I don't see any reference to when I said, I don't see any reference where I was commenting on the issue of people who are vaccinated and those who are not vaccinated, and how that would be discussed, addressed, and because it could be a potential problem or issue of concern. I don't see anywhere where that was in the minutes, and I want that to be put in there because I did say that.
Okay, would you like to submit what you said and we could table these to add it in, or do you want to give us a sentence now? What would be your preference, Janie?
I can give you the sentence now. I asked, Janie Williams asked about people who are vaccinated and those who are not vaccinated, and how that would be addressed, because it could potentially be an issue or concern.
Okay,
And that's what I said.
all right. Accept that as a friendly amendment. Okay, any additional changes?
I have two quick ones. On page 3, it said, Ms. Benante said the library should considering Macs. And I just want to say, considering purchasing a couple of Mac computers. That was my suggestion. I understand it's a budget thing and they're not supported by the city, but I think it's important to talk about it. And then
So-
also,
just so the minute taker from Telesco can get it, please just state what you would like to be changed or added in the
Okay.
minute.
okay, the statement starts as Ms. Benante said the library should considering purchasing, and then add a couple of, and then it says Max.
Okay,
And then on page 4, it says, the paragraph that says Ms. Benante asked about waiving copying and faxing. It says eventually that I withdrew my suggestion, but I also want to add, I withdrew it after pushback from the board about how we couldn't differentiate the difference between someone who is looking for a job or applying for social services. I just want that on the record.
all right, but you have to state just the addition you want, so the minute taker
Right.
can.
So
Yeah.
the last sentence in that paragraph, Ms. Benante withdrew her suggestion. It says period. And then I would like it to add, after the discussion, that it would be difficult for the library to decipher who was using the services for jobs or social services.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow. Nyla says she stole money.
Any additional changes or revision? All right, I'm prepared to accept all those as friendly amendments. If there are no objections, then could we have a vote on approving the revised minutes as revised? All in favor, please say aye or raise your hand or something. Aye. Any objections? And any abstentions? Moyna abstains because she was not present. Then the minutes are approved as amended. Thank you. All right, moving on then. We have several action items under my section of the agenda. First, I just wanted to be known how impressive it was to have so many members of the Norwalk Library community who attended the memorial service for Divya in Stamford. At one point, when I was speaking, I asked if everybody in the room who was a volunteer or employee or a board member of the library would please stand. And I'm going to guess 30 to 40% of the room stood up. It was extremely impressive to have such a show of support for the family from the library community. And I really want to thank everybody who came out on their own time on a Friday night, traveling to Stamford to show their respect and love for Divya. I thought it was a very a moving demonstration. And what Sherelle has been discussing is to have a permanent memorial at the library, which would be the naming and dedication of the Rose Garden area at the Belden Avenue branch, and to name that after Divya. And since this board is responsible for the facilities of the library, it's our responsibility to make these decisions. And therefore, I'm asking for approval to name and dedicate the Rose Garden in memory of Divya. And Sherelle, do you want to just say anything else about the plaque that you've been discussing obtaining?
Sure. So the thought is to have a plaque that we can actually give to her sons, naming the Rose Garden, a keepsake for them. We're looking at possibly Monday, June 21st, depending on how quickly Crown Trophy can get the plaque to us. So,
well, we'll have to get back to you about the date.
Pardon me?
I'm not certain about that date. So we'll have to have a discussion before we select a date.
As I said, we're looking and there's no decision that's been made. That's the date that we're looking in consultation with her sons to also make sure that they're available on that date. So it's a tentative date.
Good. We'll have
but
a
the
discussion
idea
about it.
is to give the plaque, to be able to give the plaque to her sons.
Good. All right, any further discussion? If not, then all in favor, please say aye or give me a hand motion in favor. Thank you. Any objection? Any abstention? Then that passes unanimously. The next item under 5B, as you know, the city has requested, and we have enthusiastically agreed that the library is a great location for either testing or vaccinations because it's such a trusted site by the community. And in terms of planning for vaccination sites going forward, we wanted to offer the library as a site. However, there is a cost to doing this in terms of access by patrons to the library and the duties and time of the library staff during these vaccination periods. So last week, Sherelle and Lamont and I had a discussion about how do we both facilitate the use of the libraries as sites for vaccinations, and on the other hand, interfere the least with the operations of the library and the duties of the library staff. And the language that is here expresses conceptually what we agreed to put forward, so that subject to Sherelle's discretion about how often this would occur, we are approving the use of outdoor areas in both library sites for vaccinations on the condition that the health department and the other organizers of these events take responsibility for setting up and taking down the facilities, whether they be tents or tables, and that the library staff itself can do their normal library duties. And Sherelle will make the judgment based on the programming of the libraries in terms of outdoor activities that the libraries want to have and other issues about how often the library facilities will be available for vaccination sites. These are, as you know, becoming less frequent because of the increased coverage of the population. On the other hand, it's pretty clear that the library is both an accessible and a trusted community site, and therefore we want to make sure that we're doing all we can to support the city's efforts to deal with the COVID virus. Cheryl, do you want to make any additional comments about it?
No, I think you pretty much covered it. So I guess it would be similar to when they came to do the testing, where they were self-contained and not involving a lot of library labor. So everybody's happy to do their part.
Right, and the city and the state have funding to do this kind of thing, to rent the tents or get people from different organizations to set it up and so on. So that's not going to be a hindrance to getting it done. It just makes clear about the division of labor going forward. So any questions, please?
Yes, I just want to say thank you. While I appreciate that the library is open to the public for these services, it really bothers me that the staff sometimes gets the brunt of having to facilitate these kind of things. So I'm very happy to see that you guys have opened this discussion and that you are going to let people know we don't have a problem allowing you to do these things, but we need some support as well. It should not all be dependent upon our staff to do all that heavy work. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. That's a very good comment. And I think as Lamont expressed during our discussion last week, the city and the health department and the private health entities that are involved in this are getting more and more experience each time about how to do this efficiently and without burdening the library staff. That's why we put in the motion that principle. So thank you.
I just had a quick comment. I think it's terrific. The partnership's really wonderful. I want to know if there's funding to help cleaning the bathrooms, because I'm assuming the staff that are there are going to be going in the building, and how is that working? Thanks.
Well, we're going to sort of get to that a little bit later on, but the operating budget for part-time help was restored, I think because of the addition of federal funding into the city budget. So that $100,000 for hiring part-time has been restored. Exactly how that will work is something that Sherelle and the custodial staff will be working out, but I think that's a good point.
And they use it, I guess a normal amount of time from what I've seen, but we have in our reopening plan that the bathrooms are deep cleaned every 3 hours.
Good. Any additional comments or discussion? If not, then could be a motion to approve this this item? All right, Janie moves to approve it. Sharon seconds. If no further discussion, all in favor, please say aye or indicate by your hand. Any objections, abstentions? Then that's approved unanimously. The next item is, as you know, the opening plan that we approved includes the reopening of the Blue Teapot under certain conditions starting September 1st. And even though the Blue Teapot is available now for purchases that are picked up at curbside or delivered, and Nijol has been in conversations with Sherelle about the ability of Blue Teapot to cater events that are held by third-party organizations at the library when the library reopens for that purpose. As you know, right now, we are not allowing outside groups to come in and reserve rooms for activities. At some point, that may happen, and if it does, there's an interest in whether she would be able to cater those events that are held in the library. Since we operate with Nijol and Blue Teapot on the basis of a contract/lease for her space and operations, Sherelle and I just wanted to make sure that this item was approved by the board to be included in the redrafting of her agreement that is now underway at the city law department.
Well, I have a question. Because of COVID, I know that, because I don't think COVID's over yet, who is the staff going to be responsible for cleaning, doing the deep cleaning for these events? Because I don't think that should be the case. I think if she's going to have these events, that should be her responsibility to make sure that the premises is clean, deep cleaned. It should not fall on the library staff.
Well, Janie, just to be clear, so these would be events that other organizations hold at the library. These would not be Blue Teapot events. And organizations historically have been able to bring in food for their events.
Mm-hmm. I get that, but the staff ends up cleaning afterwards. That's what I'm saying. I know, because I've been to those events. So I think that if she's going to cater to these things or people, then she and they need to be the people who do the deep cleaning, not the library staff. That's what I'm saying.
What's the situation now if somebody, I mean, let's go back to pre-COVID.
So pre-COVID, the guys did clean. Maybe not so happily all the time, but they did clean. We were a little concerned about how we would have to rework things now that we're down one custodian. We should be able to hire another custodian now that our part-time budget is restored.
If I can just make a comment with the catering, if it's possible to, I don't know if people have to sign things if she caters, but to put a cleaning fee on there to cover the cost of additional staff. I just want to throw that out there.
That's a great idea. I like that idea.
I have just a question for clarification. I just want to make sure. So while we are opening up or discussing whether or not she can do the catering, it's not exclusive to her, correct? People will still have the ability to choose who they would like to. Okay, I just want to make sure.
We just thought it would be a nice service that we can offer, because people bring things in and out. If she's already there, she would bring things in and out, and we can offer it as a service when people are deciding to use our rooms.
Well,
Sorry, I have one more question. I think it's awesome to offer that to her. Does she need any additional catering licenses?
So right now it's with the city, but I don't think so, because I think she was catering all along. So I don't think so. But right now, that's a really good question. But her contract right now is with the city. And also the additional question of, do we need to revamp the contract to add this service?
Well, maybe we're going to need to have a discussion on this, because it seems to me that if we're going to require an additional fee for events she caters, then we should require an additional fee for any entity that uses the library and brings in food. I don't see why her providing food is different than people bringing in their stuff and having the staff clean up afterwards. So if it's going to be a principle that the sponsor of the event is responsible for cleaning up, then that's something we'd have to look at in terms of the library policy generally, seems to me. And I'd also just say that when we did our survey a couple of years ago of services that library patrons would like to see, having a cafe was the #1 item. And we added that in response to the interest of the public, and at her own expense, that Joel set up this operation, and then the pandemic hit. So while we have no legal obligation to provide these additional opportunities, it does seem to me something of a way to help overcome some of these difficulties. But if people want to talk about the cleaning fee, that's something we should do generally in every organization that uses the library, I would think. It's not going to happen imminently. There won't be, at the moment, prior to September 1st, there won't be entities reserving spaces for.
Yeah, typically in most venues, if the cleaning fee would not be charged to the caterer, it'd be charged to the person who's holding the event, right? So,
Right. So another option might be, instead of charging a fee, just to list that the person holding the event is responsible for cleaning. So however they choose, because a lot of them clean up after themselves anyway, sometimes, not all the time. But I know I think there was a Lithuanian group that was in, they tend to clean up after themselves. So maybe we can just have that as a caveat, that they're responsible for cleaning the room.
Yeah, so why don't we do this? Why don't we, since again, this is not imminent in terms of.
Can I ask the question, Cheryl, do they, when you have someone coming in like that, to have programs or whatever event they're having, do they sign a contract or an agreement or whatever?
So there is something that we have online that they sign as far as payment and what our rules are for the room. We don't have in there at present that they would be responsible for cleaning the room. So that's not in there.
Maybe that may be what we need to add in there. So they have that, so they know that it is your responsibility to do the cleaning, particularly since we have the pandemic.
Okay,
That might be a good idea.
maybe that's a good idea. I was going to suggest. So why don't we, again, since there's no imminent activity in terms of of letting rooms out, why don't we table this item and come back with a draft of what that would look like in library policy and on the form, and deal with it on that generic basis. Any objection to doing that? Okay, and maybe we can have Sherelle discuss with the city the revision of that form.
Of the form or the contract?
Well, it would be sort of the form. I think what we're talking about here is to do it on a more generic basis. That is, any group that uses a room would be responsible for cleaning it up. the caterer wouldn't be. So therefore, we could also have them continue to look at revising contract with the Blue Teapot. But in the end, the entity responsible for reserving the room is responsible for cleaning it up, whether they use Najol or bring in something from New York
Mhm.
Big. So would there be an objection to tabling this and coming back to the board with those two changes? Okay. Last action item is the recommendation to approve the recommendation that Sherelle made at the last meeting to have a pilot policy for a children's fine-free use of library materials. It was at the end of her report last. So Sherelle, do you want to explain that a little bit? I have a question.
Right. I wasn't thinking in terms of policy. I did speak to the city. They have no objection to us piloting the fine free for children. So it would, based on your approval tonight, if you approve, then the staff would figure out like what the loan rules would be. So we know like so the fines would be free, but they would have to pay for the book if they lost the book. So there would be, you know, a recovery charge if they lost the book. But the fine, we would have to figure out what we want to do with the loan rules. So right now, when it's overdue, they'll get a notice. When it's 3 weeks overdue, they'll get a notice. The next 3 weeks, they will get a replacement notice that they have to pay for the book. So we would just alter the loan rules.
And my question was, did this apply to things other than books? For example, children's library, they take out bags of toys, and we have hotspots and laptops that we let out. Would this policy apply to those resources as well?
So it would apply to all items, but we don't lend out the laptops to the youth. So this would apply to items for children 17 and under.
Okay, so like a bag of toys from the
Mhm.
children. And
Or
so,
games. The toys typically are checked out in-house, but like the games, books, any CDs, DVDs,
so the replacement cost would be still,
in effect, yes.
that's what I was interested in.
Mhm.
And to
Uh,
add, sorry, and I just wanted to ask, does this mean like, I'm just speaking from experience, like when, is there ever a point at which you cannot take out books from the library anymore because you have replacement fees and things like that?
Yep, right now it's at $20.
Okay, so is that still like gonna be? Is
So
that
more than likely,
if
it would,
fines go away, is there ever a point at which people can no longer take out things from the library?
so if they don't return the item, most of the replacement costs for the items are $25. So more than likely, we probably cap it at 25, where if they reach a $25 fines or replacement fee, they wouldn't be able to check out. I shouldn't say fines, replacement fee. So right now with the fines, if they have $20 worth of fines, that's where we stop them from checking out. And with the replacement fee, again, it's $25. So I would have to talk to the team, but my guess is that we would move it to $25.
Okay, it was, I think, a real positive recommendation, Sherelle. Just out of curiosity, you said the city approved it financially. What's the rough financial impact of something like this?
So we were sending, I guess, an average of maybe 62,000 to them annually. I don't know how much of that is children's, but I can see if I can find that out.
That'd be interesting there. Because come budget time, we don't want to hear back that your contributions to the city revenue are down. Okay,
That's a lot, $62,000 fine. Wow.
It's a lot. Yeah.
we have 30,000 library card holders, so. Any other questions for Sherelle or discussion about this? So could there be a motion to approve this as a pilot program, and we'll see how it goes?
Motion.
All right, sorry, Mary, Morna? Morna made it, Mary seconds it, thank you. All in favor, please say aye or raise your hand. Any objection, any abstentions, that's approved unanimously.
If Vicky Otis is listening, she's probably jumping up and down.
Good.
She's been wanting this for so long.
Just further information, item 5E, as we mentioned, the city has restored some of the cuts that were asked to be made by departments, and that for us is $100,000 for the part-time budget, and Sherelle said more the latitude in terms of custodial staff. Travis Sims said he is going to be investigating possibilities from the State Bond Commission for funding for the library. And the last item, G, I'm just trying to get some feeling from board members between now and September. There would be customarily one more meeting. Customarily, we don't hold the August meeting. Doesn't mean we can't. So I'm assuming that at least for July, we should continue this as a meeting, and then maybe have a discussion about resuming in-person meeting in September to see how people feel about it. I have no particular opinion one way or the other. It's really how everybody feels, and vaccinations and social distancing and so on. So is that all right? We'll continue for July and then have a discussion about whether to resume a in-person meeting in September or not. Okay. Okay, well, thank you. Sherelle?
Okay, so I first want to thank Mary Mann, Sharon Benante, and David Westmoreland for being part of the committee for selecting a designer company for the South Norwalk Library. I went before the Land Use Committee last week, and they approved hiring Silver, Petrocelli and Associates for $12,300 to give us designs for the first floor of the Sono Library.
Great, and what's the timing of that?
So Sharon Connor would have to, alert them that they've won the bid, and we're hoping that we will have some kind of design within the next few months.
All righty. Well, thank you for the committee service. Any questions? All right.
Okay, so the survey, because, we have so many different opinions about COVID, even with reopening, we have people who still don't want to come in yet. They really enjoy the sidewalk service. Then we have people who do want to come in. So we just thought we'd find out from Norwalk what it is they want from the library. So the survey is designed to find out how they want to use the library post-COVID. Also to showcase some of our offerings that people may not know about. So case in point, we have which of our databases do you use? Click all that apply. And we listed them all because, that'll give people an opportunity to know what we have in case they don't. We decided to do the age groups in 10-year increments. We want to know, when people most use the library, Monday through Saturday, whether it's mornings, afternoons, or evenings. whether they think, libraries are welcome and friendly places or not, and how often do they visit the physical library, and then how often do they visit our digital library. Homebound service, we're interested in offering homebound service. So we wanted to know, if people would use it and how they would use it. Do they want delivery or virtual reference or virtual classes? If they know about Book a Librarian, our Greater Norwalk Literacy Volunteers, the Blue Teapot, and the Friends of the Norwalk Public Library book sale. So it's designed for our residents to tell us how they want to use the library. And we're open to suggestions.
Well, I was under the impression there'll be another draft. Did I misinterpret?
I'm sorry?
I was under the impression there was going to be an additional draft of this. Did I misinterpret something that you sent me?
I don't think so.
Um,
So what I sent you was a little sloppy. It was what we were trying to do online, but it didn't copy well. So I just printed all the questions so you can clearly see them.
Well, I may have a few to recommend to you, but one of my concerns with it is kind of long. And I think, every survey situation, you have to balance off the length of it versus how many responses you hope to get.
Mhm.
I don't know if it's, I don't know what other people's impression was. My thought it was, at some point people are going to kind of give up going through it, or may decide not to fill it all out, whether we wanted to have a higher fewer questions or fewer responses to longer questions. I don't know what other people think.
Cheryl, how often do you do surveys?
We haven't done one, I guess since maybe 2018 or 19, and that was a survey that was done. I can't remember, Alan, I forget, there was a couple that came into the library, and that's when we learned that people wanted a cafe. That's when we learned they wanted drop boxes, and what else? And drive-through checkout. So we haven't done one in a while. This is special to us because COVID, and we don't know how people really want to use the library, whether they want to come in, whether they just want the virtual spaces. So we just really want to know what people are thinking. It's easy to make a decision for what we want or what we think they want, but for us, it's best to know what they actually want so we can serve people the way they want to be served.
I guess the one issue that I had, just thinking as a patron when I was reading it, the question, for example, how often do you visit our physical library? So during COVID, how often did I visit? Or was it pre-COVID, how did I often visit? Or is it going to be often? So I'm getting confused about whether the question is asking me how often did I visit?
I understand.
Yeah. So I pick up books once a week, but I'm not really actually going in or whatever. But
So we can make it present tense. How often will you visit the library? But we try to differentiate between the physical library and if they're using our digital library. Is that what you meant, or just?
Yeah, I guess whether it was during, whether your frame of reference is during COVID, how did I use the library, or,
I think
pre or post-COVID, how am I?
I appreciate that. We should clarify. I would say we can either say, going forward, or how will you visit the library post-COVID?
Because I think maybe I don't know, your goal is really thinking post-COVID, but maybe one of your goals might also want to be how did you use it during COVID? I don't know if that's one of your goals or not, to find out that information. So.
Okay. Thank you for that.
And as I've done a few, like, just serve, I think there is a trade-off between length and participation. So I think that Alex's point is a good one, but I also think I can understand that it's also an opportunity to try and get as much information as you can. So it's kind of a balance, I think, but I definitely think shorter surveys tend to get more participation.
Is Sherelle, does this survey, is it one of those surveys that it cannot be submitted unless it's completely completed?
We hadn't thought that far, but that's actually a good question.
So that if people want to opt out,
Opt out or skip and choose, yeah.
they can submit what they have already addressed. But I think there has to be something done technically.
Got it. Point taken.
You make it like a vaccine incentive, you get a beer certificate or
Yeah.
Sherelle, I don't want to add to it, but the one question that I don't know if you want to hear, but what programming would you like to see at the library? Seems to be one to see us add at the library or something to that effect, but I get it. This is long. I don't know if you want, it seems like you don't want
No,
that.
that's a wonderful program. I mean, a wonderful question. And we did discuss that. I guess it didn't make this cut. So, actually,
why don't we do this? Why don't we ask by email questions they'd like to see added or suggestions about where things might be cut, and she and the staff can take those into advice.
Alex, can you repeat that? I can barely hear you.
I was gonna say, why don't we ask that the board members want to send you an email suggesting either additional questions or questions that are in there that might not be necessary. They can do that.
I would
And
like
then
that.
Yeah, then maybe you could circulate to us your next to final draft or last
Mhm.
look.
I would welcome that.
Okay, and will this be notice of this be sent out to every card holder?
We would send them out. We were thinking of having focus groups, like Lisa can do teens, Vicky can handle children, Cindy can handle the adults and the seniors. And maybe we're even thinking of doing, maybe some fun bookmarks or flyers with the surveys. We want to reach people who may not use computers, so we want to reach, all of the Norwalk users. So we're brainstorming about how to do that.
Great. Try to get Shake Shack involved or donuts.
It's true. We talked about, I'm sorry, who was?
No, I was just going to say we have too much COVID weight to lose.
Well, we were thinking of that food truck that was on News 12 the other day that's in front of the library on Sundays. That might be a good place to put, a paper survey.
Got some no carb ice cream, Sharon. We could do that maybe. Right? Okay. Well,
All right, let's see what else. So we talked about the blue teapot. So Neoli also, we met and we've emptied some stacks that we're going to have removed. And she's going to give us, or she's getting pricing for how much it would be for her to expand her area with the hardwood floors. And so she hasn't gotten back to me on that as yet, but hopefully soon. And then upcoming program, you've read about the wonderful children's and the adult programs. And we have an opportunity to collaborate with the city on a Juneteenth program that will take place on Saturday, June 19th. And so the mayor is going to issue a a proclamation on that date, and we'll have local officials give a welcome. So we definitely want someone from the library to be there to, give remarks. There'll be a poet, and then, or a couple of poets actually, and then we'll have an outdoor blues concert.
Nice.
I am so excited. These, one of the gentlemen, they're all affiliated with Bethel AME Church, different races. And one of the gentlemen, he's from the Bronx, but he loves Norwalk so much. He and his family are moving to East Norwalk. He just had his first child, and they want to raise, their children here in Norwalk. One of the young ladies, Sage, I believe, graduated from Brian McMahon High School. Phenomenal actress, phenomenal singer. And the other gentleman, Adam, I'm not sure where he's from, I think somewhere upstate New York, but they have some pilot, almost artist in residence programs in some of the schools. And so we'll have this, but we're also going to pilot a program for children over the summer. It will be once a week on Thursdays. We're partnering with the school system as well as the after school system and the After the Bell program and Carver. And so they'll have a Zoom program where the kids are learning the history, the history of the blues. And they'll learn about the instruments and they'll play a little bit of blues for the kids each week. And I found out in the process that Ralph Valenzizi, who's IT with the school system, is also in a band. So he's really loving this because they want to get their band, figure out how to get, history of music in the school system with their band. So lots of great energy on this one. Lots of great energy. And I think staff appreciation lunch, we've decided on August 25th. And I think the board approved it last time for up to $450 for both locations. And we'll have Neoli cater.
Okay.
I'm sorry, what was that date again?
August
Sherelle?
25th. August 25th.
Thank you.
And so I don't know if the board wants to come in person, but I know we also discussed having, a recording, letting staff know how much the board appreciates them. And so that'll be up to you to decide whether you want to attend or record something for the staff. And so that's it for me in my report.
Okay. So we have two items of old business. I don't think we're necessarily prepared to have final discussions on either of them tonight. And maybe we could aim the next month to make decisions. We had thought that perhaps on item 7B that there might be an attorney from the city joining tonight. He was not able to make it. So we could try to maybe arrange that for next month, and we could maybe have some discussions between individual board members and stuff about handling these issues.
He does have the policy. He probably hasn't had a chance to really, dissect it, but he does have it. And
Sherelle, I'm sorry you froze on me. I don't know about others.
She's just frozen, I think. That's probably the internet service.
Sherelle, can you hear us?
Yeah, she's frozen.
Well, just generally, will there be any objection to not taking these two items off the table tonight and trying to address them next month? Okay, I think we just lost Sherelle. So while she's getting back on, is there any new business anybody would like to bring up? While we're waiting, let me thank Ralph for obtaining some fixtures from the artist market, which, as you may know, closed after many years of business on Main Avenue, right next to the Duchess, there on Main Avenue. And Ralph was able to obtain some fixtures to be shared between the library and the new art space. So Ralph, thank you for making that possible. Is Sherelle back? I can't see it. Is Sherelle back on?
I don't know, but I think Ralph was trying to talk before, but he was on mute.
Ralph, could you
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
yes, we can.
Okay. I want to mention the fixtures that are coming from the artist market will be arriving on Saturday. They're 4 beautiful cherry wall fixtures. They were designed for art and they can be used for book display as well. And we have the space for them because one of the walls we will gain when the surplus shelving is put aside is a cherry wall. It's wood on wood, and the cabinets have lighting in them. Now, when the whole idea is to work in a plan where when the wood floor in blue Teapot is expanded, you see the shelving coming out, there's no carpeting on the floor. So we have to do one thing or the other. And when Sherelle was there, we talked about this. The wood flooring is actually more sanitary. It's easier to clean. It's easier to do catering with a hard floor underneath. So the area where the shelving will be moved is going to have new flooring anyway. So the idea is to incorporate this at one time and get it done at one time. And hopefully by the time the Teapot opens in September, they'll all be ready.
Okay, thank you.
Also, just to point out, it's hopefully going to be done at no expense. We're looking for donors.
Thank you again, Ralph, for that outreach to the artist market.
We're very pleased. By the way, there's hardly a piece of artwork in the library that Artist Market over the years hasn't framed for us. They've done a gorgeous job over the years.
Yeah. Yeah, we're going to miss them. I don't see Sherelle back on yet.
I'm here.
Oh, good. Okay.
I got booted off for some reason. I think the Wi-Fi went down.
Okay. Okay, so while you were out, Sherelle, there was no objection to leaving the 2 old business items on the table until next month.
Okay.
And then maybe you and I can discuss whether or not it's necessary to have a city attorney be present for answering questions or whether that's not really necessary.
Okay.
Okay. Any new business? And here's some. So there would be now, Sherelle, I apologize. I couldn't find my trustee invite for Zoom.
Do you want me to resend it to everyone?
Yeah, I couldn't
what
find
it
one.
is, what I did is I have it, all you have to do is put your name, your email address, and that's it, and it'll send you the invite. That helps me when I go in, I can see who's logged in, so I know if I have to, speak to somebody before I'll see who's registered. So we don't have the issues of whether somebody got the link or we don't know who's registered. So it's just a simple matter of putting your email address in and your name.
I've never done this procedure before. It's all news to me. I do like the present setup. It's so easy to get into Zoom, and I really would like us to keep it. I'm not exactly savvy on the system to begin with, but I do find the present one we're using is far easier, and I really do like the simplicity of it.
So Ralph, what I can do is put your name in, put your email in, and it will send you a direct link.
Oh, that'd be fine. Thank you.
Yep, no problem.
I couldn't find it either, I have to say.
I will resend it. Give me 1 second.
I know you used 2 different emails for me, and I wasn't sure where to look.
Yeah, I don't think I saw it either.
Hold on 1 second. So it was in the packet. It was right there in the packet. I'll resend it. Hold on 1 second.
It's in the email, the foundation email.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so while Sherelle's doing that, would there be a motion to adjourn? All right, thank you, Ralph.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Say aye. Any opposed? Then we stand adjourned.
Great.
And
And sure.
see you in a-
Thanks, Sherelle, I found mine, thanks.
Oh, okay. I'll resend it anyway. So
No, I see it,
you see it. Does
Thanks.
everybody have it, or do I not need to send it?
I have it.
I have,
Okay.
I think
So
Ralph,
I'll
right.
sign Ralph in then.
Thank you, Sherelle. It makes it a lot easier.
Okay, then that link will be good through December.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
great, thanks.
Alex, do you need me to send it to you?
I'm not sure. Probably yes.
Okay, I'll send it to both. Or do you have a preference?
No, just as long as I know which one it's going to.
Let's see. It went to both. Actually, it went to Global and it went to Norwalk CT, but I'll send it to Norwalk CT.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Or do you want me to just register you when I
Sure.
register?
Sure,
And
if
then
you
that
don't-
way you'll have the one link and it's the same, it'll be the same link through
All right, great.
December.
Appreciate it.
Okay,
All right, everyone. I'll see
All right,
you.
stand adjourned. Thank you. See you in a few minutes.
Okey dokes.
Bye.
Bye-bye.